Hey guys, so just a quick little update video. Power is in, crown molding again is looking perfect. I just had to do another little glorious shot of this. There's a light switch, boom. Anyways, sorry about the trim today, and I hung another door. You'll see down here the way I do my trim. I tie it in with the little bit of corner round and put it on a 45 instead of a butt joint. Now this will be all wood floor and that, and the back is gonna go, so there's no dirt hidden behind things. Haven't put the doorknobs on yet, but that's a coming. Now, one of the problems I had, that I do have, is sometimes your moldings don't show up the same. So this is actually thicker, it's been cut thicker. And then on the other side, it's a little bit less, but obviously you can't see that, whereas this one doesn't have that space that the other one does. You just have to kind of cut this and sand this down and put some wood filler in here. It's a lot of annoyingness, but that's one of the things, one of the pitfalls you have at times. And then again, finish the baseboard moldings. Now on the inside, we decided not to do the backstop, as you see here. So what you're going to want too is sometimes your trim is not going to be 100% perfect. So you just throw a little shim inside there, staple it up, and you're done. Doesn't come out plumb and square just because we want it to. But yeah. So, and then at the bottom there, you see the drywall protrudes a little bit. So it pushes the molding out. Again, once you dap that, you won't have that issue. Overall, things are looking good. Doors are looking good. These are solid core doors, by the way, so 8 feet of nothing but heavy. Anyways, just a few little quick tips, and I'll get back to it. So one of the things I actually wanted to talk about was getting the right angle. This is not like a 45 angle, because you can see right down here. If I squeeze in, that's a 45, and it doesn't quite match up. This, as the ultimate tool of finding angles, is 40 degrees. So you take this, transcribe it over to the compound miter double bevel saw, and you slice her down. So having a little protractor is good for not just the crown molding, but the baseboards too. To prove this point a little bit further, one of the techniques that I use, let's see if this guy will do it. If he'll let me do this one-handed. Come on. There we go. And then you can get the internal angle, if it'll allow me. There we go. All right, so this gives you two things. One, it gives you the angle point, which I'm trying to memorize right here. So then I know to measure from the corner all the way over there, all the way over here to this point that I just made, which is right there. So, and then this gives you the angle, of course. There we go, which will read as 100, yeah. So this is an outside angle. We read here, it shows, I think, 40 degrees for anything above 180. So that angle equals to be about approximately 220. You divide that in half, transcribe it on your saw, boom, you're done. So finding an angle that's greater than 180 is as simple as placing your protractor on the wall, finding that angle. So this one says, let's see right here, it says, where the hell is it? We're looking at 45 plus 180, so we're looking at 225 right there for that angle. Now what I usually do at the apex is I will mark it out so I know where the lengths of the baseboard start and stop. So from that wall and corner all the way to here gives me one length, and then from this length here to that corner there is another angle plus the length. So once that's all figured out, I know the length of the wood I have to cut, like a 45, and I'll divide the angle in half, and then there's a chart you can look up to find out what that angle actually is to be found on your saw. For example, an angle that I'm about to cut right now is an internal angle, so it's less than 180. And I have to flip this thing upside down. So let me just give me a second to invert this little tool. Now this little tool is indispensable. There we go. A little hard to use when it's one hand. So, right there. And again, I made my mark for the internal apex, or the inner apex if you want. I don't know what that term is. I'm sure I can look it up later if I remember. So it's 140. The entire, 140. So this is divided into 70. So that 70 followed by the chart ends up being between 16 degrees and 20 degrees. And I say that because I cut 2 test pieces and I fit them together. Then I adjusted the angles so that it would be perfect. So always have some test pieces and always resort to the chart to double check your angles. Now on the other side of things, my saw is already set up to 40 plus 1. One of the things you can do, and excuse me for sneezing if I happen to sneeze, I am allergic to sawdust. Let's say we're at that 40 plus 1 for that angle. Where is it here? There it is. So right there. So that would be the angle. So if you match this up to your saw blade, for example, you bring your blade down like so. I have to do this one-handed. And right there. And then you just fit this right up against it. And that is the mark. So it's a little bit of a cheat if you don't have a chart. So after you've divided it out and everything like that, you can get the angle there. So you don't always need a chart. It's handy. You definitely need a protractor. This tool is indispensable. I actually had to get this one. I happened to come across it at a Princess Auto, evidently because it's Power Fist. I went to Home Depot, didn't have it. I went to Lowe's, didn't have it. They do have protractors there, but they're not like this. They don't do the inverse angles. They are actually a little bit more expensive, and the ones that can do it are a little bit convoluted. I've had this one, I've had a version of this one forever, and it's worked perfectly fine. For $5.99, well worth it. So now I'm just kind of showing off for the work I've completed today in the guest room. I always put the 45s unless wise instructed on the baseboard trim. And other than that, everything has come out plumb and square, and some of it's a bit of a fight. You'll get used to that. You'll see some of the shims I put in for the baseboard just so it's straight and true. Once it's all dapped and wood fillers in, you won't see any of that stuff. So hopefully this video gave you some tips and tricks for your own work.